Okay, I'm doing this video quickly on my webcam, and I'm going to keep this brief and to the point. Yesterday was referred to as the day out of time in reference to July 25th, 2013. I've heard others say that July 25th every year is often referred to as the day out of time. But I've looked on YouTube and I've looked around the web at different perspectives, and there are many saying that today is the end of yesterday to today, the harmonic convergence, which kicked off April 16th or 17th in the year 1987. Now, I've always felt that the years 1986 and 1987 were extremely energetic and transformative. I felt that way at the age of 6 and 7. I was born in 80. I was feeling those changes in the 80s then, at that time, and I'm definitely feeling things in the air. I think we need to examine what needs to be changed in our lives, what new doors are about to be opened, and we need to be aware that in these massive changes we may feel certain emotions that we may identify to be likened to some sort of perception of some sort of a catastrophe. And this catastrophobia that we see actually at the peak of every solar cycle, which is kind of what I'm going to get into next, is a fairly common pattern, and we should see it as what it is, a cyclical pattern, where large amounts of the population seem to go mad. A lot of things change, a lot of things begin, a lot of things end. And there's this constant meme in the back of the mind about impending invasion, impending doom, impending disaster. And again, every 11 years we go through a peak, and the peak could last several years, in fact. Sometimes there's double peaks within a 11-year cycle. During that period of time, you see more things changing, more things transforming, more wars, more drug use, more creative things created. A lot of things are moving. The human excitability factor is up, 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 and away. And just because a cycle may be a weak cycle doesn't mean that the flares are going to be weak themselves. Sometimes weaker cycles produce solar flares that have even more energy than more active cycles. Now, I want to direct your attention over to spaceweather.com. If you want to learn more about the other stuff, about the harmonic convergence, about July 26, 2013, about how it relates to the Mayan calendar, and this being the Mayan New Year day, you can look into all of that on your own. But it's interesting when we see certain alignments or we see certain dates of significance that people within the realm of astrology find to be important. Certain major supermoons and eclipses, sometimes they come with geomagnetic storms and solar flares. From spaceweather.com, they are reporting on magnetic unrest. Earth's polar magnetic field is unsettled as a fast-moving stream of solar wind blows around our planet's magnetosphere or magnetic field. In other words, it could cause some sort of magnetic flux. In other words, your brain waves may be responding to these changes. By being aware of these changes, hopefully you can make it a positive thing instead of a negative thing. And the advice I want to give people is you want to be very careful on days like this. And there are some people that are saying, oh, they feel happy, they feel a sense of renewal. I feel in my life a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of things are changing. And sometimes my emotions can respond to, and kind of as you can see from my last video, kind of a real perplexed, apprehensive way of looking at things. But deep down inside, I know things are going to work out for the best. But I'm just definitely in this introspective, trying to be as balanced as I can, trying to be as open as I can, state of consciousness, so I'm ready to shift on the surfboard of life. I've been doing dishes. To balance on the surfboard of life. Because there's a lot of things that can throw us off. And I'm about to go to somebody's house, say hi. Somebody I've said hi to many times. You've seen him in many YouTube videos. Call him Dave. And there are certain people that, if you don't show around for a period of time, show up, they get pissed at you. And let me just say, living out here in the Rio Grande Ranch area, the San Luis Valley, the southern tip of it, we're talking about some extremely unique personality types. And ultimately, being isolated and having to, in a way, work on my social skills by dealing with people that are on a whole different level, but they're neighbors. And to the best of my ability, when I do meet people or we do cross paths, to be a nice person. You know, I don't go off into a bunch of conspiracies or a bunch of stuff about, well, sometimes I get into solar flares and, I get into planetary changes and consciousness and some of the things that I see happening coming in the future. But I don't do that every time. I just try to be a nice person and ultimately show people that I am an asset in whatever way I can, and try to do that without getting into the information I have up here. But other aspects of myself that are valuable, that are trustworthy, that are moral, that are honorable, that are legitimate. Getting back to the solar flare conversation, with an increase in solar flares in the magnetic flux, when we have these geomagnetic storms, whatever's there between two people, if there's something to resolve or whatnot, it rises to the surface. And if you're unmindful of this, you can end up in a situation where you are exploding on the person, or you're really affected emotionally by them exploding on you. And it may be a situation where the extra energy in the air just gave the extra oomph that was needed for that person to just go over the edge. So I'm out here living off the grid with very little and working with different personalities that sometimes will go off during these changes in the sun. And I'm aware of that, and I'm conscious of that. And I actually feel the increase in angry human beings, just their thought patterns, their brainwaves. There's a part of me that feels like I can feel it. Not only what's going on with their aura, but their brain waves, what their thoughts are. I'm not saying I can read thoughts. I'm saying there are aspects of my brain that can pick up and perceive the thoughts, the vibrations that are coming from someone else. Not the specific thoughts, not word for word, not line for line, but it's like a feeling. And there's something about when we go through these changes where we can call it the sixth sense, if you will, or the third eye, where we can feel those thoughts that others are harboring about us, be they positive, be they negative. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel like you can feel how the people around you in your life are looking at you? Now, there are people that say that as we go through these changes, we're going to start becoming more psychic. We're going to start becoming more aware. We're going to be more in our third eye or sixth sense. We're going to become more clairvoyant. Well, I mean, it sounds all nice and fluffy and enlightened, but I mean, there are what we may perceive to be negative things that can come from living in a world where we start sharing thoughts, and everything that you think about someone, they pick up on. It can feel very intrusive on a conscious level. So as if this is in fact what's going on, and I think that this is what's going on, when we start getting these perceptions, we need to ground out those emotions that may respond to those genuine intuitive feelings inside of us where we're realizing that someone's plotting against us, they're thinking something negative, and it works both ways. I can feel, and I'm sure some of you can feel, when someone's thinking positively about you. Now, Facebook and YouTube, these are perfect examples, because the internet itself is some sort of a weird psychic interface. And there's many dark applications that can come about from this type of knowledge. And the powers that be have this knowledge, that we are psychically in tune on some level, and they use it against us. That's why there's so many glimpses of truth, snapshots of truth that are in video games that deal with wars and certain alien issues. You type in Archon, for example. For those of you that are researchers, you know people talk about the mythological archons from the Gnostic texts. You type in archons into the internet, and all these video games pop up. There's something intuitive to me about the year 2025, which I think is going to be a major point in time where we're going to see a lot of things kick off around that point in time between the United States and China, and a lot of things will be happening on U.S. soil. Of course, the Russians will be involved. I feel that 2025 is a very significant date. I just Googled it the other day. Just do it right now. Google 2025 into YouTube. What pops up but like a whole bunch of fucking crazy video games. It must have come out in the last year or so. I do not keep up with the latest video games, but the trailers, the plots, it is becoming increasingly satanic. The point of bringing all this up is this is an example of potentially how the powers that be are able to tap into the collective psychic zeitgeist, take those memes, take those words, take those themes, and insert them into video games, and so they can create more interest organically within those young susceptible minds that will be receiving the advertisements for these games. The 2025, it's like hitting a trigger, kind of like 9/11. What if there was a video game called 9/11 10 years before 9/11, or 5 years, or 1 year, or a few months? Would there be a certain amount of the population that would respond to a game like that with a theme that relates to fighting terrorists after they? Well, we do know that there were video games, there were movies specifically, many of them starring Chuck Norris, that dealt with many 9/11 type of themes. So that's also very interesting. A lot of those movies were very, very popular in the 1980s and 1990s. True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, made in 1995, 1996, I believe. Another Chuck Norris-style, Delta Force-style movie where they're going after the terrorists or the bad guys. So I want to wrap up this particular point and kind of close here. That these are examples, I believe, of how the powers that be use multimedia, video games, movies, other, fill in the blank, whatever other may be, to tap into that collective psychic zeitgeist and get people to listen to their message, to watch their news reels, to play their video games. So as we become more psychic and these solar flares start just increasing the connection between us, we've got to work consciously to make it a positive connection between us. Okay? Because when we go through triggers like this, negative stuff rises to the surface, and a lot of us, we got that battle shit in our genes. We got that barbarian fucking, it's time to grab the battle axe, you're not gonna fuck with me, you motherfucker, you better back the fuck off. Now that's fucking crazy warlike psychosis. It's like in our cells, and there's certain shit that when we're not in balance, it fucking hits those buttons, and we're just wartime. The powers that be understand this, but powers that be understand aside, others forces of darkness aside, this is about accountability, this is about self-responsibility. And we should all work to evolve and use this energy that's coming in to do that, to transform us to a higher state of consciousness, to better our lives, to take time out of the day. We're busy, I'm distracted, you're distracted, and focus on those things that we want to create for ourselves. Put out those intentions. I put out intentions, but I'm also all about being a strong human that can live with very less, that can live in the middle of nowhere, that's got that survivor gene that seems to be almost castrated, removed from many humans that don't seem to have that type of same drive. They're just, they have to have the city, they have to have running water. I don't identify with the. So I'm all about persevering with less, but I try to remind myself that you got to be responsible yourself, not just wait for something else to give you something. You have to be responsible yourself for your own ability to exercise your ability to manifest something, to not wait for it to fall out of the sky, and to manifest realistic things. Not just, oh, I want a big house and a big car, but realistic, tangible things that are within reach. And most of all, to be selfless as you do it. To harness the power of the sun for selfless acts of something whatsoever. I'm losing my train of thought here. Using the power of the sun to take selfless acts to make the world a better place, not just be focused on yourself and your own gain. Hopefully this video will get you thinking about these crazy times we're in. Thank you for watching.